New for you at 4, the North Dakota Fire Marshal's office is reporting that natural gas flares at oil wells sparked 2 North Dakota wildfires earlier this fall. Now, investigators concluded that flares combined with high winds and extremely dry weather, they started a couple of those wildfires, one of which was near Newtown. Now, no one was killed or injured in the 2 fires, but a combined 14 square miles were burned, damaging land and livestock. Now, these fires, they were among several in northwestern North Dakota in October that burned up to 118,000 square miles, in which 2 people did die and 6 were injured in those other North Dakota wildfires. Agencies are still investigating what caused the other ones.